Welcome to Tokenverse podcast series, where we bring together creators, blockchain specialists, investors, intellectuals, and experts to brainstorm the potential and future of Web3 technologies. This production is brought to you by DoinGud, an NFT marketplace, which is empowering creators and connecting people who want to do good across the world. And in today's episode, we're going to discuss the subject of money making vs money giving in the world of NFTs. We're very lucky to have very knowledgeable and eloquent guests here today, starting with Vincent van Uffelen, who is a very good example of a crossbreeding representing the world of art and the world of tech in one. He has exhibited, performed, and presented his collaborative and solo work in Austria, Germany, Greece, Hong Kong, Slovakia, and United Kingdom. And when it comes to his work, he focuses on performances, workshops, and interventions using their performative nature for further inquiry into collaboration, co-creation, and collective learning. So I think it's very relevant to our conversation. Vincent, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm doing good, thank you. Hello, nice to be
here. Where are you now? Which part of the world?
Berlin.
Berlin. Is it hot there?
It's very hot. And it's getting hotter. It's getting hotter. Like serious. It's hot.
Really? I don't see you sweating yet. So.
It's coming.
Now Ryan, who woke up at 7:30. Where are you now, Ryan?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Very good. So we're very lucky to have Ryan here, who's going to present us the subject from more kind of cooperative and legal perspective. He's the founder of the legal practice in Los Angeles. And they're representing startups and getting them operationally legal and basically helping them with regulatory compliance, KYC protocols, licensing, and intellectual property. So very happy to have you here, Ryan. Are you doing okay? You fully awake?
I'm getting there, but thank you. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Great to have you here too. And now Nikoline Arns, who is one of the co-founders of DoinGud, and she focuses on the connections among creators, social impact organizations, and the wider community as a whole. Nikoline has expertise with DAOs and also is experienced in cooperative organization, education, dynamic governance, and different models of governance in the tech universe. Where are you right now with Nikoline, and how are you doing?
I am fantastic. I am not far from Barcelona, but in the countryside, so lots of green around, which is good.
You seem like in a busy environment. Mm-hmm. And then also we're lucky to have Wendy here, who's also representing the DoinGud team, where she's helping on strategy, coordination, and social impact organizations relationship. And she's got quite impressive CV because she worked with USA Today, Yahoo, Sheraton, London's Business School, ING Bank, Lufthansa, Porsche Holding Salzburg, and Banco Santander. So this is really impressive. Very happy to have you here, Wendy. And
Thank you.
Right, let's get straight into it. Like what we need to discuss today is that, of course, there's many exciting and complex aspects when it comes to the subject of NFTs. And don't worry, we're not forgetting about the big electricity costs and environmental problems. We're going to dedicate another podcast for that. But today, in this episode, we're going to concentrate about on the giving economy and the social impact. So we can imagine, like, just when you observe what's going on in the world of NFTs, like Beeple sale on Christie's, like if just a tiny bit of that was given to some social impact causes, it would really make a difference. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's not the tradition yet, although you can see the trends, like Edward Snowden did his NFT for his charity, then also Ellen DeGeneres, should be called Ellen DeGeneres, who auctioned her NFT for and gave everything for World Central Kitchen, and Pele auctioned his trading cards for his charity. So there is a trend. But the thing is, like, how actually make sure that giving to charity is not just a trend, marketing trick, but it's actually genuine contribution to the right causes. So perhaps straight away, let's hear from Vincent, because he's very much involved in Berlin's art scene and tech scene at the same time. But I was wondering if, Vincent, you could tell us from the perspective of the artist, what's the word on the street? Like, are artists actually concerned about, you know, social impact and contributing to different causes apart from just making money?
There definitely, I think a lot of artists are hardly any artist makes money. No? So like to start off, there are a few lucky ones who made shitloads, and the vast majority is actually living quite a dire life on, if you consider their artist's income. So it's quite difficult to ask them to donate money, because like actually they're trying to raise funds for themselves or for their own community. So the interesting thing is that what I'm interested in and what I'm also talking around about with other artists at the moment is like to kind of like how to set up an NFT marketplace that can fund sustainably an artist community, that can support arts creation internally, or how you want to call this. So like there is already an NGO being founded, but it's a maybe a little bit a selfish one. It is you're funding your own, you're funding your own arts creation, and you can talk then internally how any profit, if there is any, how would this, I'm sorry, be distributed, or and find agreements on internally, like what does it mean if a community sells, or a member of a community sells an NFT at a very nice price? What happens with the profit? And
yeah,
so
it could be like a pyramid, or like, you know, Maslow's pyramid of needs. We could perhaps create this kind of need for the pyramid of needs for the artists. Like, first of all, you know, they have to survive. Artists need to have food, and then they're going to think about, you know, satisfying other needs, like actually helping different causes.
There is the other side is obviously, if you're already a successful artist, you can lend your reputation to a good cause.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can, like you can give your name and you maybe make an artwork which is attractive, but it's selling for raising funds for a different project. That's something which you can always do. But like if you're like one of the many that are just like trying to get attention, get create their work and find ways of being seen and maybe also being funded for their work, then you're working on a different paradigm, and very similar, actually, I think, to an NGO trying to raise causes for a good cause, whatever the good cause yet now is.
Yeah, that's a very good point, that we should consider two types of artists: the artists who are struggling themselves and the artists who are actually well established. Then let's move to the other group that's in the picture, which is investor. Maybe Ryan, you have to deal with, I suppose, lots of investors, entrepreneurs in the sphere of blockchain and so on. From your experience, are they actually? Is it something they seek? Do they have appetite for be donating through activities such as buying NFTs, supporting these causes?
Well, I think it's, I mean, in general, it's so new. I think it's people are trying to wrap their head around, like, what is this? What is an NFT, and how can I, you know, use this to either make money or to benefit society? It's starting to slowly. I live in Los Angeles, and so the entertainment industry here is a big part of, you know, the city, and so entrepreneurs, filmmakers like Steven Spielberg, who already have a lot of money based on their careers, are now trying to dip their toe in the pool of NFTs and sell, you know, little snippets of films that have been released or not released, film scores, the music, and there is a starting, I believe, I hope it's not a trend, but I hope it's lasting to give back to the nonprofit community. In Los Angeles, there's a very large museum called the Getty Museum, and the Getty Foundation is now starting to understand what NFTs are and try to sell, you know, images of the art that they still have on hand, and then give back to local nonprofits in the Los Angeles community, specifically for homelessness right now. which is a big deal. But also there's a lot of fear from investors as to the intellectual property, like who really owns an NFT? Does the artist still retain the rights? Does the buyer who pays $1 million for an image have the rights in perpetuity? There's not a clear understanding as to the chain of rights of art. So people are still having those serious discussions.
Has anybody started a charity for homeless in like NFT charity for homeless in Los Angeles? That would be a good project, no?
I think it would. Not to my knowledge, no, but I know there's been discussions around that. So yeah, I don't know who the artist is. There's a local artist here who we call, he's a guerrilla artist because he paints in the middle of the night pictures of kittens, and he paints them on cats.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he paints them on storefronts and freeways and parks, and he's made a lot of money from his cats, and so he's the one who's trying to spearhead a non-NFT for homeless issues.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Really interesting.
Cats are always good, right?
Cats always work.
Cats are the way in. They're the way in.
Yeah. Lots of things start with cats or kitties.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about cats charities later on. With some special information.
Are we?
Yes. But in the meantime, Wendy, you have to deal with social impact organizations. So from their perspective, are they open to be receiving money through this novel technology, or are they scared of blockchain and NFTs altogether?
So I like to say I get to work with social impact organizations rather than have to, because this, I think, it's one of the ways in which we hope that NFTs and blockchain will fundamentally shift apart an important part of society, and that is the social impact organizations. They're probably broken into 2 or 3 segments, and if we just very easily say kind of the crypto savvy and the crypto curious, I call them. The crypto savvy certainly are willing to get on board and experiment. And at this time, the early stage in the NFT development, as Ryan made reference to, I think the crypto savvy are happy to, because they understand the underlying technology. And not only that, they understand that they're going to be bull markets and bear markets. So there's going to be ups and downs. And those ups and downs over a period of months or years may shake out some who are interested in it for the purpose of the speculation, for the purposes of the new adoption only, and then some who want to stay in the game for a long time. If we go to the crypto curious, I'd say they're Nikoline and I spend a lot of time talking to them. They're in a difficult position, I guess I would say. To begin with, in America, at least, about 50% of the giving is from individuals, and the other 50% come from institutions. In Europe, the split is different, a much greater proportion. In excess of 70% of giving is achieved through governments and giant grant applications. And they're in an interesting spot to start with. The first is that they're asking for money from the very institutions that are sort of failing society in the ways that they choose to help. So that's an awkward thing. To work so hard, and those grant applications take a huge amount of time, a huge amount of organizational energy, and often cause some degree of contortion or distortion of what the social impact organization wants to do, because the grants choose to carve out certain areas of support. So the social impact organizations, and if we could shorthand SIOs, the SIOs have to sort of mold themselves to fit each new grant application. So I think they very much wish for a greater degree of freedom and accessibility, a greater degree of self-determination and self-direction. However, they work in a structure that has basically trained everybody to say, you better be careful with my money, what exactly you're going to do with it, and to hold the social impact organizations to possibly an even higher standard of accountability and impact measurement than the actual institutions that deliver these services ostensibly every day to us. So the shorthand here is that, and this isn't the short part, the short part is they are very curious. What we call the sort of normal land-based programs and impact organizations, they are very curious. And I think they desire quite a bit to have a level of freedom and access and transparency even that these new platforms will provide. However, they are under significant pressure to change very little on the institutional components of what they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is lots of hope in that technology then for them. And Nikoline, you obviously believe all these free actors could be satisfied with what they wish to gain from NFT marketplace. Can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration by joining and starting the DoinGud project before we actually go into practicalities and how it works? Just kind of motivation, inspiration behind it.
Okay, that is not so hard. It's actually kind of easy. Yeah, basically, for me, it's like it makes a lot of sense to bring these artists that Vincent talked about, that basically already are really hard working every day to create a social impact in the world by being maybe their own NGOs or having some kind of desire to improve the world. At least by showing their perspective, their opinions, their visions, and their emotions into the world. And then there's the social impact organizations that are also doing the same, maybe on a different level, on a different output, but the intention is the same. So for me, to combine that, like two mentalities of groups of people in the world, and to combine that with like the crypto space, that basically is a space, I would say a space of like abundance mindset, right? Like, for example, if you are an artist and you always struggle to make a living and you don't know, you have food and this, and then all of a sudden you find a medium that actually makes you money. And or money, maybe it's a different kind of money, maybe it's different, but you can actually get valued for what you do. And what I've seen like as a trend is like the first impulse of especially this group of creators is to say like, wow, okay, now we're actually getting value for our stuff. Let's share this, you know, I feel bad taking this all for myself. Like, let's get going. Let's hook up with other artists. Let's explain other creators as well, like, oh, we can do this, we can do that. I mean, it's like a mindset of abundance, of like a possibilities that just come around the corner by using this technology and reaching audiences that you could never reach to before. And I think it's like super, super beautiful to see that mindset of abundance really connecting these different groups together. And to see like, okay, so now we have I mean, it's in the crypto space in general, I think. Like, if you change the mindset of money and connect this to values that you care about and that you think that will be good, you kind of also tap into that flow of a mindset of abundance. And the abundance, I think, it's the start of the giving economy. At least that is my vision of what we do at DoinGud, to connect all these people, to connect them into this this mindset of independence and abundance and the giving economy, and to really kick that off. I'm not sure that answers your question.
I think it does. I think it does. I'm just let's build up on this, and maybe Vincent, from your own private perspective, because you're an artist. I think you're just working. You haven't done any NFTs yet, but you're working on one. Is that correct?
I'm working with friends on a project around like AR artworks and NFTs. Like, basically, we're trying to create a platform that produces AR art, which is already like a fledgling thing to do. It's not very common to do that, and it's very digital, so it's sort of native and it's sort of lends itself, but then there are quite a lot of hurdles. It's not, you can really easily, it's not the thing you can watch that easily in a stream on a phone. No? So you still have to engage with it, activate it, go and place it in a space and play around with it. So like it's even harder, and it's not like a quick thing like no? So like it's but like so that's the part of the medium or the things people work with, and the other part is how do you set up a socio-economic system around the potential of creating something, like how you can discuss like, okay, all profit goes into a community kitty and then someone decides collectively, but will this on the long run motivate people to partake in the community or not? Like I find this quite an interesting question, like how to deal with these things. And that's like, I think like a lot of artists are working on similar projects in all different fields. I know from all areas, from music to performing arts to, they're all trying similar things. Alternative funding, because writing grants sucks. Also artists have to mold themselves to the funding application. It's a running joke that you basically write whatever the funder asks for, and in the end you're doing what you want to do, more or less, no? Like because you have the artistic freedom at least. But this happens, fundraising happens every day. Like, and I know of successful artists who have to write 100 applications each year alone, no, wow. To get maybe 2 or so, and so it's hard work, and but then I'm also like a bit wary of the burden of having to market yourself. It's like, no, like, so like suddenly you're selling something and it's not your making, but you're replacing the work of writing grants with the work of advertising your work or your community's work, or
I think that there's also interesting aspect of DoinGud platform, because they actually aspire to be managed by the community, built by community. So there's also going to be this different aspect when it comes to curation, that it's not just going to, you know, reinforce the old structures where, you know, the just rich get richer, but actually promotes new talent and yeah, basically help the community promote their artwork. But when it comes to actually making sure that the donating part goes in the right hands, like as an artist or investor, like what would you like to see? Or maybe Ryan.
I mean, what I'd like to see, I think, is more embracing the technology. Like I said before, actually Wendy made a very good comment before. I think we're at a time right now that's going to separate the people who are in this for the long term, both artists and investors and all the above, versus those that are in it for the get rich quick scheme. You know, last month, sorry, I don't know if that's my audio or not. Last month or 2 months ago, there's a gentleman who you may or may not know called Elon Musk, who talked about Dogecoin and Bitcoin, and then the prices skyrocketed. And I had several neighbors, you know, say, I'm going to buy Dogecoin, and it's so fabulous. And it went up 500% in 2 hours. And then next week it went down and they lost all their investment. And it's like, this is stupid. I hate cryptocurrencies. And they all left. So the same with investors in art. It's like, you know, what I like to see is not treat this as something that's fixed in time, but something that can, in the long term, make a lot of good for the community. And like I think Vincent said, what's amazing about this is that the exposure for artists, both young and old. I mean, before, I hate to say it, but the art industry, from my legal perspective, I'm not professional artist, but has been in the hands of a very elite few, you know, the galleries and the Sotheby's and all that. So for an artist to create something in Berlin and want to be on the world stage, it's hard. Like Vincent said, I work at a nonprofit that supports 30 working artists, and they're running applications every single week for grants and for scholarships. So if we can use NFTs to support the livelihood of an artist, and then have the 20% of that sales price go to supporting a community, I think that in the long term would be a wonderful thing.
Yes. So essentially, it's like when we starting thinking about doing good, like first we have to think about starving artists. That's the first charities we should concentrate on.
I think they're playing. It's the same rules applying for a lot of parts of society. No, that's like it's also the same movement is happening between like taking back control to a certain degree of your funding, and that's not necessarily only the governmental issue, but like also like you can say people are dependent on corporate handouts, payouts, funding. Like it is simply to kind of like decide to maybe keep the wealth or the value as local as possible, and to not maybe, like to say like, okay, it's partly about a local community of arts enthusiasts in my, like of all curators and curators and people who are like to watch it and people who like the principle that it's there and support it, and but it's a very local thing. Quite often it's based on social contact and you like someone and you want to help out, and so there is a global part to it, but I think there is also a very strong local part, which is a different economy, maybe even.
When it comes to doing good platform, Nikoline, how does it look? Who is actually choosing where the money goes to?
It's always the creator that decides the percentage and also which social organization the money gets streamed to. And this is like for a couple of reasons, because obviously they still need to be in control exactly about how much they're going to receive, how much percentage goes to their own, how much they need to earn to actually be self-sustainable. And the second thing is that they can choose the social organization because to create also like an emotional connection with that social organization. It's what you said, Vincent, that sometimes it's a very local level. Like, for example, we make it super easy so you can search the social organization based on your location. So if you are like in a certain city, you can just choose one social organization that's also in your city. So there's more chance to actually connect. Maybe even physically, you go to visit or you go to the end. So the other way to choose social organizations is also by the SDGs. We have like this categorization of the different SDGs, the social, the impact development goals from the UN. It's a categorization that's been used everywhere. We're not like super aligned with that, but we use it because there's a lot of things now being just about climate change, for example, and carbon offset, which is very valid impact as well, but we don't want to just limit to that. So we really give the creator the tools to choose in which area of this sustainability goals they would like to create an impact. So that would be like the two reasons that we put it there. And yeah, the percentage can be between, like, we have a minimum of 5% because the platform is about that, like creating that connection. But you can just donate, you can give everything, and the creator is completely in control. It's like when you upload the artwork, you can set the percentage exactly how much you'd like to go to the social organization, and then from there on it's hands off. Everything just goes where it should go, and you will, it's super transparent. It's registered on the blockchain. Nobody's in doubt about that. Because what happens now, sometimes like people would like to donate to a charity and they put it in their description, but sometimes you don't know if it actually happens or if the exact amount of fees that you think that goes there actually goes there, because things are deducted or things happen on the way that you don't know about. And we think that this should be like super transparent for the creator and also for the social organization on the receiving end. So yeah, that's things that we care about.
And so, Ryan, this due diligence when it comes to transparency, where the money goes to, are we there with the blockchain technology to actually verify the sources and where things end up?
I think we're getting there. I think that's definitely a challenge. Right now, most of NFTs are in what's a coin called the Ethereum. There are other coins now that are allowing for the sale of these transactions, but the good thing about Ethereum is that it's also developed to have a chain of custody between buyer and seller. They're even starting to use Ethereum in the legal industry for signing contracts that can't be hacked, and so you know exactly that a contract is valid and was signed by the right people. So I think in terms of, the art world, I think we're getting to a point where you can, know who the buyers are, who the sellers are. There's still a risk. I'm not going to say that there's not some shady stuff going on. But in the industry, as you all know, we talk about KYC a lot, which stands for know your clients. And my clients, they have to have protocols in place to understand who they're dealing with, who the buyers are, because otherwise they could get shut down, or they could actually go to jail in the US, because it's still frowned upon by the federal government to work in the crypto industry. So anyways, long story short, yes, I think we're getting to a point where we can know who the buyers are, but we're not quite there yet. And
Wendy, from your perspective, talking to social impact organizations, how are they when it comes to blockchain, sorting out all this kind of like due diligence side of things?
There's two parts to that. I think some of them are really open to the blockchain aspect because it allows them to establish the chain of ownership or chain of control for the actual assets and sometimes currency that they're transferring directly into projects. And there's lots of examples of projects that have been funded directly with cryptocurrency. Families, communities, tribes, lots of successful projects, and the data is right there to be seen. For the more traditional ones, I think there's something very appealing about the transparency and the opportunity to, in some respects, finally have the work of either provenance or the work of impact being done for them. As you know, addressing and measuring and assessing impact is a very time and resource intensive activity. And for some of the more traditional social impact organizations, I think once the administrative aspects have been proven and alleviated, and some of the risk officers and the chief financial officers get more comfortable with the technologies and how they operate, and as we see larger institutions like the US Treasury and large corporations like IBM taking on cryptocurrencies as part of their balance sheets, I think that allows a smoother transition for the social impact organizations because it looks like these technologies are more widely accepted.
Yeah. Vincent, if you put your programmer pants on, do you think that Ethereum is the answer when it comes to the subject of transparency? Or you
They're
don't want...
all databases in the end, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a bit pragmatic there, no? Like you obviously you buy into an ecosystem, and there's some network effect going on. Like the bigger, the better, the more, and it's risky to go on a different project which is smaller or not known, or but like in the end, I think it's the more interesting part is the social economic part and not the technical infrastructure which is running on. You can see that other blockchains are, like you're doing Polygon, if I'm right, no? Like it seems to be, at least, I think. DoinGud is running on Polygon, right? Yeah. So like it's already a different beast, and you can see that other blockchains are also supporting the concept of an NFT. and then it's also playing out what's your strengths. And this is not like necessarily that it's reliably working technically, but it's more that the team is working, that the promotional part, that there's some pull in those parts.
Nice. And there is only one more subject which is more sexier than transparency. It's the taxation. And perhaps Wendy can tell
It
us
should
about
be
that.
both. Transparent taxation.
TMT. Wow, that's super sexy. We're going to have a separate podcast dedicated to TNT. But for the moment, maybe Wendy can give us a compressed answer when it comes to handling the taxation issues. In the case of DoinGud, it's the deductible from the tax.
Got it. What's in that bottle of Pellegrino?
Yeah, that's here actually.
So I think the question, if I understand correctly, the question is, how do social impact organizations handle the taxes? We probably have a separate question about how creators go about handling taxes. So let me take as social impact organizations first. The very good news is that in experienced economies that have seen some of the activity around both blockchain and cryptocurrencies, there actually already is a framework in place, meaning Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs here in the UK, and the US Internal Revenue Service in the US, and most Western European governments as well. There are two things that make this kind of easy, not completely, but kind of. The first is each of the large governments that we just made reference to have already published guidelines on their websites. And those guidelines refer to for charities accepting cryptocurrency. So they're very clear, they recognize the use case. They've been opining and adjudicating on this use case since 2012, 2014. So it's there to be seen. The second great thing that's in place is that these governments typically, not uniformly, but typically treat cryptocurrency donations the same way they treat stock or shares donations. So almost every social impact organization, charity, SIO, 501c3 in the US, almost every single one knows how to and daily accepts gifts of stock. And there's a simple mathematical formula they have to use to recognize and follow the taxes on those donations of stock from donors. It ends up that the governments have chosen to treat donations of cryptocurrency exactly the same way. There's a very simple calculation. I'm sure it's not any fun, but it is no more complex than accepting stock. So the precedent is there. They have published guidelines. So it's not nearly as opaque as it was even 3 years ago. Wasn't that fun? Kind of sexy?
That was sexy, very sexy.
So now maybe for dessert, let's go back to this subject of locality and giving economy. And I said there'll be something about cats. So the news is that, I don't know if you've seen Tiger King. Yes. So remember that lady, what's her name? Her name was...
Crazy lady.
Yeah.
Carol Baskin.
Yeah.
So she started her... Yes. So she started her own NFT platform. And she actually says that, she believes that cryptocurrencies and NFTs and tech like virtual reality and augmented reality things can help charities build a world in which their supporters can interact together. So you see, this lady is pretty switched on, actually. So
fair point.
Yeah, there she goes.
There she goes. So how does this apply to what we've been talking about? That can actually, this platform be maybe the platform you're working on, Vincent, because it's augmented reality? That can it also work as a kind of like platform, a playground to be interacting with each other, not just kind of like giving and taking, whatever, doing transactions?
What do you mean, like interacting with the artworks? There is, for example, a nice NFT-based art platform called Dada.art. And they are like, you can extend illustrations and you simply add. It's like the game from the childhood. And they are, I think they are doing it really nicely, you know, like you're collaborating with other artists to go and make this endless long artwork. That's technically possible or fairly easy because you can doodle next to a doodle, another doodle. And but like an AR work is way more complicated to create, like literally technically. And so I think it will last a little bit until you get there that you can. So right now you can watch it, but you can't really interact with it except you are having those glasses which only exist in advertisements and expensive Hollywood studios, I believe. No, like I haven't.
But on the phone, you also have this AR layer.
Yeah,
right?
you can.
And
but
I think like it's so amazing that I think that this specific medium is really going to bridge the physical art with the digital art, and that is like a gap that now exists still in NFT. Like, how do you solve the physical art marketplaces? How do you get those on these platforms? How can you get those audience? And I think what augmented reality is actually that. It's a collaboration between like maybe artists that more used to do physical art and artists are more digital. And this is a kind of technology that could merge those two together and really create a bridge for traditional artists.
There will be, no, I think it is really an interesting field. And but right now it's literally technically quite, you still need the looking glass, you look through your phone and you need to walk and turn around to basically, you know, like it's a very...
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it makes people laugh, definitely, yeah.
But I think, Vincent, if what you're referring to is kind of the medium term, while you sort this out for us, there actually is, Anya, in response to your question, there is a near term. And that goes beyond the collectibles that you made reference to, buying this, selling that. And that is the NFTs that are more experiences that have layers of some collectible plus a concert ticket or plus a private private time with your favorite artist, or singing happy birthday on your mobile phone answering machine, whatever it is. There is a near term and an immediate term opportunity to make NFTs that have kind of a package to them rather than simply just buy the crypto kitty, sell the crypto kitty.
Like,
and that doesn't take anything more than we have now.
NFTs can be organizational items, no? They don't necessarily need, and that's a kind of an interesting thing. So like they help to organize flows or interactions, and which is not an object to be sold. Like maybe it is, but it's different.
It's a different way of thinking about productizing life.
Yeah, it can be a collective, and also like in DoinGud, I really, and it's already happening a little bit. Like, I mean, we will have a structure for organizations, and organizations can be artist collective, there can be social organizations, there can be brands, there can be galleries, it can be anything. And you already see that like different individuals are putting up different hats. Like, and the lines will be blurred at some point. Like, of course, we have here Ryan, like he's now here for his expertise on the IP ownership and legal side, but also he has a lot of experience in social organizations and how they're run, and is connected with those. And I think that like with each human that we have on the platform, this kind of lines will be blurred at some point as well. You know, as long as you create a structure that's possible, I think that the base would be set for that.
And in terms of, I just want to say, in terms of like the financial aspect, which actually selling something on the blockchain and then transferring that funds to a social organization, you know, we still are in need of a financial institution to house that money. And I don't know about Europe, but in the US, all my clients in the crypto world, they have their bank accounts closed at least once a month, and they keep running from one bank to the next, and they don't know where to have their money. Finally, there's passed the state of Wyoming, which like 3 people live there, but who cares? They started this state law that they're going to be the first state in the United States to have crypto-friendly banks. And so 2 are opening this month, one hosted by Kraken and one called Avanti. So all of the crypto companies in the US are flocking to Wyoming to set up as an institution. They can actually have a place to sell things and give the nonprofits and house their money safely. And so that's kind of exciting. They fight back with me. They say that they're worried that's going to become regulated, and that's blockchain is decentralized, and now they're going to try to control us. And so I don't know. There's 2 sides, but at least for now, we'll have a place to house our money and give locally to good, organizations.
It's so interesting what you say there, Ryan, about will the regulatory regime make its way into this crypto-friendly space? Mm-hmm. And in that respect, it does feel very threatening and foreboding in some respects. On the other hand, there are very curious signals that instead of the current regulatory system overtaking like an umbrella this territory, it's very interesting how their movements are actually, they're not quite collaborative, but they're more parallel rather than umbrella. So the signals are a little more like, oh, maybe we should be at the same party with you, rather than we're going to control you. Now, that may just be because we're in early days, but some of those signals are curiously tolerant.
Are there any countries or governments which are pioneering when it comes to regulations in that field?
I don't know about regulations, but El Salvador is now officially like a crypto country, I guess. It kind of helped that like 70% of the population did not even have a bank account yet, so they just go straight into crypto. And of course, it comes with regulations and things like, I don't know, it's really hard. There's so many things going on at the moment around this. I don't know. I always try to remember like why the whole cryptocurrency basically started as really to be your own bank and to be in your own control. So whatever new app or new banks are coming up, I always really do ask that question. And I'm sure, Ryan, you had heard that argument before as well, of what you mentioned before. Yeah, it's like, how much control do you still have? Can you really be your own bank? Do you need to do all the KYC before you join up? And there is an important transition going on because there is systems that are there, and there needs to be a transition period or some way to integrate that. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, I think, to look at. There's whole countries now that are really jumping onto crypto. So yeah, it's interesting to study how they treat the different regulations in each country and each state and each city sometimes. So yeah, it's interesting times.
Yeah, for sure. Vincent, you were about to say something.
Yeah, for me, it's just a question. It's like I know that I'm liable to pay VAT for artwork sold in Germany, and obviously that kind of brings me in trouble if I do it to a global market. And then and the question is if how far a platform could help to go through those troubles. No, like there is something like, as long as you're small enough, nothing happens. No, if you hardly sell anything, no one cares about your $10 sales. No? But like it becomes interesting if you scale up out of the creators as the selling person. So it's not the SIO which needs to deal with the donation in the end, but like it's more like how does all this works if you already have taking a cut on top of it, and to be feeling at least fairly secure and in knowledge like it's more feedback of, I think like it's a very weird place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think doing good is facilitating art smuggling, right? No, sorry, that was a different topic.
If from a platform perspective, at least you have all the information like super transparent, and that you can communicate to whatever institution you are connected to. That at least gives a bit of peace. Like if you upload on a platform that you don't even know how they treat the fees, how is that percentage calculated, and everything, that becomes harder for you also to externalize that information to any third party that you need to justify yourself to.
Do you do KYC? Like, you know your customers, and you know if someone buys anything above 10K, you have different legal requirements. And
yeah, we luckily have like a really good team of lawyers, and they advise us also like on these global matters. And yeah, we do KYC like because it's not just crypto payments that we also have like fiat payments. So that comes with all the regulations and all the things that we need to comply with. So yes, we are very on top of that for sure. Mm-hmm. Also for the social organizations, they need to have a verification. Otherwise, you can be your own social organization and just stream money to yourself, or like, you know, situations like that you don't know. So we do verify every organization that is on the platform, and we also do the KYC.
And finally, to wrap up this conversation, I want to ask each of you which, if you were imagine you've got lots of money and you're buying this expensive piece of art, what charity would you like to donate? Actually, is it possible on the DoinGud platform for the investor to suggest what kind of like charity he would like the money to go to?
From all the like social organizations that will be in our database, the possibility will be open to just make like a direct donation as well.
So without any art.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But that is not really released yet, so that's the primary that we have now.
Let's reverse the roles. Like if you're an artist, you create this piece of art and somebody says like, oh my God, it's amazing, I want to pay 10 million for it. What would you like this 5% or where would you like this 5% or more go to? What kind of social impact organization would you like to donate money to?
Well, I'll start just because that's why I'm here. Because an artist that works with DoinGud, who I've actually never met in person. She lives in my community, and she wants to sell something and give all of the funds to our nonprofit. So yes, and they can choose on the platform where they want to give money to. And so if I came into a lot of money, I would want to give to the same organization. So we developed about 3 years ago a nonprofit in my little neighborhood in Los Angeles called San Pedro, an LGBTQ focused entity, trying to promote awareness and education for youth and suicide prevention topics and mental health issues for LGBT kids.
Nice, lovely, excellent.
Vincent.
Vincent would give it to the open AR art platform,
obviously,
of course. Which first needs to be a legal entity, obviously.
Yes.
We'll wait for you.
You don't want to do any art smuggling, do you, Vincent?
No, like it needs to be transparent.
We'll make sure of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
But we're waiting for you to get your
yeah, like it's obviously part of the discussion what you need to do, and like and in German context, like being a legal entity is difficult and expensive, very expensive. So like you have to think and know what you're doing before you actually start doing.
Maybe you can move your project to El Salvador. Would that be easy there?
Yeah. Okay. Like there are other countries in Europe which are already easier. I think it's just the German context which makes it more cumbersome than other countries.
Wendy, where would you allocate your income from that?
I would choose one of the sustainability Sustainable Development Goals itself. So that I would actually ask DoinGud to make contributions to a bucket of SIOs in the SDG number 5, or gender equality goal.
Fantastic. And Nikoline? Oh, Nikoline,
Yes,
I think you might.
it's very tricky. Because yeah, no, of course it is, because I was browsing to our database and things like, which one would I choose? I have no idea. But I think that I would really go for like a local organization. There is like in Barcelona like a lot of like social impact organizations that are doing an amazing job. One of them, for example, is Green City Lab, that I really like. And I don't know, for me, I personally just like to see like, okay, so I'm going to stream money there, and then what they're gonna do, and I will try to be involved and see what happens to it, and see if you can help on other parts and what you can learn from them, and really, you know, get more involved. So I would probably go for like a local one.
Yeah, it's surprising nobody mentioned Carol Baskin's organization for the cats. So it didn't work, huh? Netflix. Wow.
I'm still waiting on that one.
Well, I think it feels really good to be making the world a better place. Like, I don't know if you have this impression during the podcast. Well, thank you so much for being here and your contribution. Thank you, Nikoline, Wendy, Vincent, and Ryan. And we'll be coming back with the new subject next week. And have a nice morning, Ryan, and the rest of us here in Europe. Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Ryan, Vincent, to be here. Wendy, looking good as always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Amazing.
Thank you, Anya.
Thank you all.